Okay, playing against A57 from Austria, 2040 Rapid, 1800 Blitz, no bullet. Love it. Okay, we'll do some more Sicilian stuff. It's a Smith Mora. So I had, okay, now it's not a Smith Mora. Now I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we could transpose it into some kind of accelerated dragon. Because that's what I would normally play. I guess that can't be too wrong. I mean, it's probably wrong because this position's objectively better for white, but it's a position I know, so. I played a game as black in the Smith Mora, what, 3 days ago? In the chess league that I play in? And I drew. But my opponent was like 600 points lower rated than me, so that wasn't really what I was wanting. But what are you gonna do? Okay, so this is still theory. Accelerated Dragon, Maroczy Bind. Maroczy Bind is definitely the best way for white to play, in my unimportant opinion. Definitely causes the most problems for black. However, my highest rated win over the board all time was in this line with black. So just because the opening's bad doesn't mean that good things can't happen, I guess, is the lesson. I'm even ahead on the clock, which is pretty weird. Okay, F3 is one move. I don't really remember the niceties of the theory here. Pretty sure I'm just supposed to castle. Hard to believe that that's wrong. I can't remember if F3 is the most common or some other stuff, but yeah, this looks pretty normal. D6, I think, is theory. Okay, and then now... Oh wait, actually I think I pulled the ripcord to move too early here, but I don't know if it makes much of a difference. I think you're supposed to play bishop d7, then trade. So yeah, I'm not sure if that's going to make a huge difference. I guess hopefully not. I guess normally e5 wouldn't be possible for white, but now e5 is possible. Is that something that I care a lot about? I don't think so. I mean, I think black wants to trade pieces anyway, so if e5 is played and I take and I move my knight from f6, we trade dark square bishops, you know, I think I'm okay from a human perspective. Probably the computer will say +1 for white. That would be my guess. But yeah, the usual plan for black, as far as I understand, is bishop c6, knight d7, try to trade some stuff. Since white has all this space, the trades are usually going to favor black. Okay, so that's a fairly modest looking move, right? But that's probably right. Okay, I'll just follow through. I wonder if white could be thinking of playing like g4. Could be. But in any case, I think I just stick with the plan. So yeah, I'm going to try to just go here, trade some stuff off, and then this knight can come to, you know, a good square, hopefully. Okay, he just castles. So yeah, this is probably a book, although usually when they play queen d2, they're saying they want to castle over here. Yeah, this is actually quite reminiscent of, yeah, we're going to play here. Quite reminiscent of the game that I had, which is my highest rated OTB win ever against an 1850. We could virtually transpose to that game. Possibly even completely transpose. So in that game, what ended up happening is we may have had this exact position. I can't remember, but she played here, and I took the knight. She took back. I traded bishops. Whoops. And then I played queen b6 to trade queens, and I ended up winning it endgame. But yeah, as I was saying, like the piece trades are probably going to be better for black because then white's space advantage can just turn into weak squares. Whereas black doesn't really have much weakness. Okay, so this is like the exact same thing. So I think I'm gonna go through with this. And the whole point is to free up b6 for the queen. So after bishop takes knight, I believe the best move for white is to throw this in first so that he can avoid, you know, this idea of trading the queens. So we'll see how white responds here. I think it's pretty natural for white to just be like, well, what's black doing? Why is black giving the bishop pair away? And just sort of happily take back and not give it too much thought. But there actually is a specific reason. It's to free up b6. So hopefully white is debating which way to recapture and not debating throwing in this capture. I think this is a safe pre-move, though. I don't think there would be any reason to not. Actually, I guess no, I can't play queen b6. No, I can't play queen b6 because he just goes back. So I think it's a safe pre-move. I guess while white's making this decision, this is a good time to remind you that if you're enjoying these videos, you know, you could like and subscribe and stuff. That would help me out. I'm trying to do more with this YouTube channel. And, you know, I have a pretty decent following on Twitch, but not really on YouTube. So it would really help me out if we could get more subscribers and more likes on the videos and stuff like that. I mean, white's thinking about something. So he did throw it in. Clever. And took with the queen. Okay. Well, now I can check and pick up b2 maybe, but then... Well, but when I do that, the bishop's hanging. So normally, like, check somewhere... Like, only really sensible move, I guess. Take here, the bishop's hanging, so this normal, like, rook b1 thing doesn't look like it would work. I guess I have to be careful that my knight is hanging. But yeah, I think I can just sort of get away with snatching this pawn. I guess if my knight ever gets in trouble, I could probably play knight f6. So I feel like there's not much to worry about there. You can't throw in c5. I probably just take it with the knight. Even take with the queen, and then I achieved what I wanted to, trading queens. So, okay, we're definitely playing queen b6, it looks like. So yeah, the queen probably should have stayed here defending b2. And I guess we now have a position where, you know, the main imbalance is that black has a knight and white has a bishop, so we're going to have to do everything in our power to prove that this knight is better than this bishop. I'm leaning towards putting the knight on c5, because once the b pawn is gone, white's not going to have any piece available to kick the knight away from c5. That also protects this weak point on b7. Now the downside is you know, the C file might be a good place for my rooks to use. Yeah, I thought that was basically forced. And then, yeah, we take this, and we're on the bishop. Bishop doesn't even really have... You know, he probably has to, like, defend, which... I mean, I guess he can play bishop. Bishop, whatever that square is, d3. Feels kind of clunky with the queen here. Okay, but I'm taking. That much is pretty certain. E5 could also be a square for my knight. But I'm worried about it just being kicked away with f4. Yeah, and the bishop is just simply defended. So probably we can expect rook b1 to happen next. So maybe knight c5 is a good, just sort of stabilizing move. Just keeping an eye on this pawn. It's not reliably defended for now. b6 also seems sort of thinkable. And then if the rook comes to b1, I might can even grab. That gives away c6, maybe the queen comes in. Another possible plan for the knight would be to come here. Wouldn't that be nice? That hits a lot of stuff. But we're talking about a fairly slow plan. So after knight f6... Yeah, it's hard to believe that plan's happening fast enough, because once the white queen moves, you know, I think white's getting this tempo pretty quickly. Probably my queen's not going to be able to stay on the second rank. So b6, queen c6. I mean, knight e5 is coming with tempo then. I'm not sure that it's, like, that good. Does happen with tempo. I guess knight c6, the queen moves, and then some rook comes to the c file, and I'm on this pawn. I don't know, that just feels sort of wrong. Like, f4 could happen. I don't know. Kind of tough. I can't help but like this b6 move, because it seems like that forces these rooks to be pretty passive. So I think I'm just gonna go for it. Hopefully I won't regret weakening c6. I think we look pretty solid here. Okay, the bishop just backs up. That's a pretty reasonable idea, which I didn't even really think of. So I'm thinking maybe just bring a rook to c8, and then I expect he'll harass my queen, and I can play queen here. I guess he'll avoid the queen trade. If he didn't avoid the queen trade, then taking with the knight, now I'm on this pawn. This plan doesn't really work as well as it did, sadly. Okay, I think the F rook should come over. I want to leave the A rook home because I'm thinking about some variation where this happens. And the A pawn could be skewered. A4 is a very, very sensible move, I will admit. I will admit it. Rook here is sort of tempting. Although it hangs this rook, so it's probably not so good. Otherwise, good looking move. Maybe that was a reason to move the A rook instead. Could just play knight c5 and try to meet a5 with knight b3 if I can draw the arrow. But he always has this tempo against my queen. Maybe just queen back. Offer this trade. Keep an eye here. Try to evict the queen from this diagonal, maybe. I think it seems pretty reasonable. Queen here could happen, but I could meet that with knight c5. Actually, the queen's cooked there, isn't she? Yeah. Okay, so the queen goes back. But she's staying eyeing up a5. Okay, but now knight here threatens a big fork. So that'll have to be dealt with by white. Sort of hard to argue with. Could even maybe, if I'm feeling especially crazy, fianchetto the knight just to keep an eye on this break, but... Yeah, let's play knight c5. And I'm hoping for rook e b1, and I think I can still play knight b3. Because if takes, then this rook is hanging. Probably rook a b1 is a better move. a5 could still be some threat. But maybe I just do this maneuver. It's kind of strange. But I mean, this is the weak point. Well, one of the main weak points in White's position. So, you know, getting just everything on c4 makes a lot of sense. Okay, now I'm behind my customary 3 minutes on the clock. That's pretty good. But up a pawn, and my stated goal was to prove that this knight is better than this bishop. I think that is mission accomplished. I can't even imagine how the bishop gets good. At some point, he could even try to sack this pawn to make the bishop good, but then I'm up 2 pawns. F4. Okay, well, I guess I have to calculate tactics again. Knight b3 could still happen. Knight takes e4 could happen. Okay, wait a minute. Knight b3 is pretty tempting. I don't think knight e4 can work, even just like queen e2. I guess if knight b3, he'll move the queen and try to attack the knight. Like queen c2, for example. I could maybe take the rook. Queen a2 could be better. Then I could play queen c3. Gets a little crazy. Only a little, though. I'm worried. That seems pretty loose. I think that I may just need to retreat here. I don't love it, but what are you gonna do? Okay, now the time trouble is getting pretty significant. But knight b3 seems like a well and true threat. f5 or e5 could happen. I probably just play queen. Oh, okay. I probably just play queen d7. Knight b3 is threatened. Possibly knight a4 is threatened. Could also just go back here, where knight b3 is suddenly a big threat. It feels a little nicer, doesn't it? I guess we should do the things that feel nice. Now, that's not life advice, but if you ever find yourself in this exact chess position, kind of funny, he played f4 to make my queen leave, and then he's like, all right, fine, you can come back. Yeah, I don't see what white's gonna do that I'm supposed to be so afraid of. I'm never playing g takes f5, so no problem there. I still think this reposition could be in the cards, and just try to put everything on the c4 pawn. Probably rook a b1. That would be my best guess of what white will do. I mean, I guess I should calculate taking this. It just seems, you know, excessively risky. It's hard to believe. It's hard to believe that could work. So probably just this reroute. Eventually try to activate the rooks. I guess if the rook... Okay, he just doesn't care about this? Because it seems like that wins a pretty decent amount. This is a fairly all-in kind of move. Yeah, I think I'm calling, though. Yeah, I don't know what I'm supposed to be afraid of. So I'm not afraid of it. I don't know if that was just missed from white or white felt like he needed to go crazy. I was getting ready to say, I guess rook a b1, you know, I could maybe just snatch a pawn. Actually don't see what's wrong with that. So it could be that black was just in control. Yeah, I mean, there's not even much to think about. Like, the queen's gonna get moved. The queen also has to defend a1 since I'm attacking it twice, so I think, like, queen d1 is virtually forced. Okay, or that. I just don't believe... I don't believe you that I'm getting mated. I don't believe it. Like, f6, I could just take it, even. Take with the queen. No problem. Give me that knight. Or that rook, whatever that thing's called. Wow. Yeah, he's not kidding around. Well, I'm tempted to just play h6, and then hopefully I don't have to deal with any shenanigans. I don't see what the shenanigans would be. If I allow h5, then maybe there's shenanigans. Hope I'm not missing any shenanigans. But if there's no shenanigans, I'm up a lot of material. This rook is even sort of overworked here. I think it's just time to execute some level of technique. Check. Well, I didn't really have too strong of opinions here. Let's take with the pawn. And then queen takes, probably take with this pawn. Yeah. And let's just get the rooks in. I don't think we need to hurry with, any break on the king side with my super majority. I guess a5 is likely to happen. And that gives me a passed pawn. I think this is good enough. a5 takes. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it does give me this passed pawn. I was just gonna go here, but now let's just go here. Double the rooks quickly. And I could force an exchange. An exchange of rooks would be very beneficial. So I think I will do that. Just need to make 100% sure that nothing bad's happening here. So rook there, take. Bishop moves, and then I take the pawn. If he takes the pawn, I take. There's no danger of him queening. So this seems fine to me. And earlier I was having to prove that the knight was better than the bishop. But soon I'll just have to prove that a rook is better than the bishop. Yeah, I would expect bishop e2 now. Maybe here and try to zugzwang. Zugzwang's a pretty cool word. So it's got to be good. Yeah, I mean, whatever. And then my plan can even be as simple as come here and sack. And then win with the b pawn. Yeah, that doesn't seem to do anything. Doesn't seem to. Maybe I could have played g5 first. I could play it now if I was worried. The g5 completely freezes him out. Also means if the bishop gets any funny ideas. Yeah, I think g5 makes a lot of sense. It might not be strictly necessary, but if white had played g5, like, maybe Maybe he can somehow do some breakthrough. Oh, maybe he's gonna try. Maybe this is his idea. Okay. Could be. I'll be able to walk in, though. Okay, maybe that's not his idea. This pawn is inconsequential. Like, I mean, he can't even do that because my rook's there. But yeah, this should be a pretty easy conversion, I think. Famous last words, but... Alright, that move's legal. You gotta give him that. And yeah, let's just do it the easy way. But yeah, if you don't know this kind of pawn in game, the fact that I'm ahead 3 pawns isn't really relevant. What's relevant is that all of his pawns can't move, and this pawn can run. So this is called the what do they call it? The fox in the chicken coop, I think. Where, you know, after take, my plan is basically to shove this pawn, which probably can't even be stopped. We'll just go here and win the bishop next. Trade for the bishop. Yeah. We'll just go here to be flashy, but with this passed pawn all by himself, the king is gonna have to come stop it, and then while he does that, I go do all this. And then it's easy. So there's no calculation required in these endgames. You just, if you have this situation where the enemy king is gonna have to deal with one pawn, and then you can get your king far enough ahead of the other pawns that you just go win them, zero calculation, just instant win. So anyway, I think that was a pretty good game. You know, that went pretty smoothly and is sort of fitting in with my theory about this opening, which is that if black can trade a lot of pieces favorably, that he gets a good end game. I think that's really the theme of this game, is that in the opening I kind of let white get a lot of space, but then once pieces got traded, the space turned into weakness. And so like knight b3 was available, you know, because there weren't pawns anywhere to stop me from getting my knight in there. So, you know, I think that's a reasonable way to play against, you know, people who just try to take all the space. So yeah, I'm letting the computer analysis run now. It agrees that this was a pretty good game. It says 3 inaccuracies, 0 mistakes, 0 blunders for me, with a 19 Cinnapon loss. Now, the 19 Cinnapon loss is a little, you know, a little misleading, because my opponent probably could have resigned, you know, 10, 15 moves sooner than he did. I don't care when my opponent resigns, but that skews the Cinnapon loss a little bit. But anyway, let's take a look at this one. So yeah, it started off as a Smith-Morra, and then white did this sort of interesting knight f3, which yeah, now like transposes. So yeah, I guess now it's just sort of any open Sicilian. Like you can just transpose into, you know, this is what I did, because this is the kind of Sicilian I like. So what I like is if they do opposite move order, you know, this is the same position as the game. But I guess going this way now, you know, black could change course and make it more of a, you know, whatever this Sicilian's called, I guess leading to like the Najdorf. You could make it a French Sicilian. See, those are all the most common moves. E5 has even been played a few times. I guess the pawn can't be taken. I assume that's why we can get away with doing this, because if the pawn's taken, then there's a fork here. So I didn't even really consider e5. I sort of stopped my analysis at knight takes pawn. But e5 does seem technically possible. I wonder what the computer says. Yeah, the computer likes e5. But okay, but this got me into some comfortable position, so can't be too bad. Yeah, and then as I was saying during the game, my personal opinion, and I'm no openings aficionado by any means, but having played a lot of Accelerated Dragon with black, if you want to make black upset, then the Maroczy bind is probably the way to go, the way to refute the opening. Yeah, and then all of this is theory. Yeah, f3, I wasn't sure if that was too early or not. It looks like normally they do play knight c3. So I don't know if f3 changes things for me. Looks like no, because it looks like most of these guys are castling. Computer likes queen b6. I didn't even think about queen b6. That's a pretty crazy looking line. Because it's giving queen, this is the engine that's giving this. Queen b6, knight f5, discovered attack, defending the bishop. Then queen takes b2, knight takes g7 check, king f8, and then it says knight d2, king takes g7. I mean, I'm not doing this. This is too crazy. I mean, I guess the net effect is that material's about the same. Black sort of castled by hand a little bit there, but I'm afraid of my queen being here. And white got the bishop pair, so. Okay, that's a little too crazy for my taste, but the computer says it's best. All right, we'll turn off the computer. So castle seems fine. Here, I think we're transposing back d6. And yeah, here I sort of forgot my my prep, but it looks like me forgetting was fine. Because I played knight takes d4, which is actually the most common move. Although black is scoring better after bishop d7. So I surmised that maybe a reason not to do this move order would be because e5 could be played here. Oh, that's not what these guys did. They all played bishop e2. Okay, well, I don't know. I don't know what the big deal is. But it is interesting that here more people are playing bishop e6 or queen a5 than bishop d7. Okay. And then the computer terms this an inaccuracy, although about 60% of the master games have gone that way. So how bad could it be? I mean, the computer is giving plus 1.4, which is pretty substantial. But knight d7. Okay, so yeah, second most common move. Apparently the most common is 8. We transpose back into like one of the main lines. And then it says here he made a mistake with knight d5. Which, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is just my position in my OTB game that I was referring to. I may reference that real quick. Let's look and see if I can find that. This might not make it into the YouTube video. It depends on how much editing I want to do. Castle. Here. Yeah, so this was the game I was referring to. See, everything's good there. So, oh yeah, so this game, it wasn't even an Accelerated Dragon. It was a Zamish King's Indian. And then it's sort of transposed. Like now this is... I mean, is this just the exact same position that we had in the game I just played? Seems like it. Yep. Well, wait. Yeah, so here. Yeah, it's exact same position. Okay. And then in my OTB game a month or two ago, bishop e2 was played, which I think was also what was played in our game today. Nope, queen d2. I can't remember. Yeah. So this is back to the OTB game. Sorry, this is probably confusing. So yeah, this is where I was... Oh, right, yeah. So this is the same idea I played in the game today. And then here I played knight d7. Yeah, and then this was the position that I was really curious about, which does look the same as this position. Yeah, so it's nice when you've had a position OTB before and you can sort of recall it. So my OTB game was bishop takes knight, and she recaptured with a pawn, which allowed me to do this tactical sequence that I mentioned where I trade and force the queen exchange. She took, and then I actually took with the a pawn, which I think ended up being a really good decision. Kind of neither here nor there, but now my rook's on the open file, and I can play b5 later maybe. So anyway, it was nice to sort of have that idea in mind when I was playing this game. So takes, and then it looks like, based on how my opponent played, I don't think their reason for playing bishop takes bishop, which is what was played here, I don't think their reasoning was to avoid the queen trade. It seems like their reasoning was they wanted to recapture on d5 with the queen, because that's what they did. But yeah, the computer just says this is losing. And it basically says I played really well from here and just converted the advantage really well. So let's bring in the computer at this point. Yeah, so queen b6 check. Yeah, and it's mentioning c5, which I mentioned during the game. So I guess one actual like positive about c5 is that this bishop is going to be able to do something. So as played in the game, the bishop was staring at the c4 pawn. And later on, I was even thinking, like, maybe white just pitches that pawn to let the bishop play. Well, that could have been done here. But, okay, it's sort of a hard move for a human to play, just giving a pawn away for no reason, seemingly. Yep. And, yeah. So black's only up a pawn. But, you know, as I said, this bishop is pretty bad, blocked in by all its pawns. This knight has some natural squares. The c4 pawn's really weak. You know, it can be really piled up on by black. So that accounts for the other 2 points of edge that black has. Okay, defended that. Oh, it says queen d3. That makes sense. Rook fe1's the second best move, about the same. b6 is one of the top moves. It felt a little strange to me, but yeah, pretty pleased with it. Because that's one area where white could certainly get some counterplay if white's able to get the pieces in on the queen side there. Bishop backed up. Yeah, so I see rook fc8 was floating around the top. Yeah, there it is again, which is what I played. And then I later wondered if I should have brought the other rook over, since that rook could be hanging. So I wonder if the computer is going to care. It actually does care. It's giving queen b7. Yeah, I mean, we did undefend that pawn. Yeah, I guess it's just an immediate fork of the pawn and the knight. So I was sort of right in my reasoning for moving the f rook. I was actually afraid of like white sacking the a pawn, but then getting the skewer. So I was right to not undefend this pawn, but not for the right reason. Okay. a4 seemed like a reasonable try. And then here, it looks like my play wasn't really all that great, but good enough. So queen back to e5, it's not a huge fan. It's giving queen f6. Yeah, I mean, I guess my queen ended up going to f6. I kind of let white play f4 later for free. Queen d2 was a good move by white. Yeah, I sort of wrote it off as, well, white's avoiding a queen trade, white's trying to get in a5, but I didn't really think about that the queen's also supporting this f4 advance, so I should sort of take notice of that sort of thing. f4 is now, you know, a possible threat. Still, knight c5 is fine. This is all fine. Queen f... Oh, I played queen e6, that's right. It says those moves are about the same. Yeah, and then I think white was sort of running out of ideas here, and he kind of tried to go all in and just drum up some weakness around my king by playing f5. And yeah, it says queen f6 or queen e5 are both really good. And then yeah, it just went totally all in here. See, like I said, I don't know if knight b3 was just missed, or if you know, white just felt like he had to try to drum something up. But yeah, we can really see, like I was saying, white's space advantage has just turned into weakness, because white doesn't really have, you know, my pieces can get active back here and create threats. So yeah. Yeah, the computer plays f6 here. That would be a funny move, f6. Just completely kill any dreams of counterplay. So yeah, h6 it's not a huge fan of, but... And then this sequence, I guess, was like somewhat relevant, but I didn't want to take with the queen. Actually, I guess I could take with the queen, and if he takes, just take with the king. And then my pawns are perfect. Yeah, that's what the computer's doing. Now, it likes e-takes also, but... For some reason, in this position, I was thinking like, oh, I take with the pawn, but now this pawn's weak. 1d6. But I could just take with a king. There's no danger at all. But instead, I took with a pawn, and yeah, took... Normally, you know, often you would take towards the center, and that makes it so that it's one pawn per file, but the d pawn's really weak, because the d pawn's never going to move forward. It can be targeted pretty easily. So I thought this was better. White has no passed pawns. Black has no weaknesses for white to try to get counterplay against. You know, white obviously is forced to take this knight, and then black's going to be on, you know, on the front foot, you know, getting active somehow, which is what happened. Okay, and we can sort of breeze through the rest of the game. Not super important. I guess I do think this is somewhat important to touch on. The computer's not giving rook d1 is one of the top moves, because the computer is good at calculating. But I think for a human, rook d1 is like a perfect move, because if you have two rooks and your opponent has one rook, and you trade a pair of rooks, then your opponent can't ever oppose your rook. Like, if you put your rook on a file, you got the file. That's it. So, you know, I think almost always, if one side has two rooks, the other side has one rook, you want to trade a pair of rooks if you can. Even more so here, because black's just totally winning. So any simplification is just going to, you know, make it simpler. So we traded. Now the bishop has to move. Yeah, and it likes rook d4. But yeah, there's really not much white can do about this plan. And even if that plan weren't good, then there's probably other ways for black to win. Now, I thought when he went here that maybe he was seeing my plan and was going to try to bring the king over here, which seems like a reasonable-ish try. I don't know exactly how I would meet that. Possibly I could put the king on e6 and play for the f5 break. Maybe, I don't know. But maybe easier is just walking the king all the way in. And eventually something's going to have to give. So yeah, g5 not really necessary. But I was just thinking like, well, if he pushes, like if I just go king e7, if he pushes g5, you know, I could win a pawn. Actually, I don't even see what I should be afraid of. Like, I can just win a pawn here, play f6 if this needs to be defended. So there's not really even anything to be afraid of. So this was probably just an abundance of caution. But I mean, yeah, I just made it to where there's just no possible plan for white, and this plan is just, you know, easy. I like how it's giving rook takes d3 instead. Even though this is like a pawn better, but yeah. And then just get rid of that, and then yeah, just a no calculation required king and pawn ending. So anyway, hope you liked this video. I'll be posting more of these regularly. Again, please, you know, give me a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye.